Thank you, Mark. We welcome now Romina Boccia. She is the Director for Federal Budget at the Heritage Foundation. And thank you for being here, Romina.
Thanks for having me.
I was looking at the consumer confidence numbers before I came on air, and I was struck to see that the expectations were that consumer confidence was going to dip significantly, and it didn't dip as much. Why?
That's right. Well, because I think economic fundamentals are still very strong in the United States. Workers have an abundance of job opportunities available to them, so why wouldn't consumers be upbeat?
All right, when you look at tariffs, though, when you look at how tariffs are playing, not just on big businesses, Romina, but also on small businesses, this is getting, and farmers, this is getting jitters to average Americans, but also folks all around the world.
I think we're seeing most of that uncertainty play out on the business side of things right now. I think consumers haven't really grasped how severe and significant these tariffs are, and this is the one dark cloud on our economic horizon that the president could do a lot about. It's time to end this trade war and allow Americans to buy products the same way they have before, abroad and domestically, as they want to.
Well, the president has suggested perhaps helping those people with payroll tax cuts, indexing capital gains to inflation. Let's start with indexing those capital gains. The Tax Foundation found that over the next decade, for example, these measures would only add GDP 0.11%, wages would increase very slightly, full-time jobs would be added, but that would really be a negative for federal revenue at $178 billion that would be taken away from the state coffers. Would this help, at least in spurring the investment that the country seems to need at the moment?
I think indexing capital gains to inflation would be very good for long-run productivity. Cutting payroll taxes at this point would just be a revenue downer, and it wouldn't really help. We don't have a problem with employment. We have a problem with uncertainty that's primarily driven by the trade war, but it's also driven by high government spending and debt. So the best thing the president can do is to fix those issues at the root. And that means stopping this trade war, removing tariffs, and also providing some certainty that the federal government will reduce its spending and debt, working together with Congress to actually produce a budget that puts us on a path to balance, or at least to a point where the debt isn't growing much faster than the economy.
When it comes to those tariffs, we heard from former New York Fed President Bill Dudley now saying that the Fed shouldn't encourage President Trump's trade war. What's the risk of the U.S. ending up like, say, Europe or Japan that have really kept piling up debt to their economies?
Yeah, the United States is in a different situation because the dollar still is very strong. U.S. debt is in high demand, but that's not a situation we can milk for very long. Now's the time, while the economy is still strong, to cut back on federal spending. The president can also work with Congress to provide certainty on the tax side. If we spend too much, there's the question whether the tax cuts that were just enacted will be able to be extended. Some of those expire. So cutting spending now, reducing the debt, and providing that certainty on the trade side, but also on the tax side, those are the best remedies the president and Congress could approach right now, and that will allow for strong growth going forward.
Right, Romina, but who in Congress, which Republicans are carrying that water right now? I mean, it seems like it's just more spending, more spending, more spending.
That's right. That's what we're seeing, and I think that is contributing to the uncertainty we're also seeing in the markets, because how long can this go on? I think that's what a lot of investors are asking themselves, and that, together with the trade war, is really what's driving the issues we're seeing right now, including the inverted yield curve.
So play the long game with me. Who right now in the Republican Party is bellowing the cries of concerns of too much spending? Because I'm in the halls of Congress virtually every day when they're in session, and I can't really find one lawmaker who's doing that.
No, they're not doing it. I think that we're seeing a lag because the population constituents, they're starting to wake up again and starting to care more again. There was a recent political poll that found that deficits are becoming a major concern again for the populace. So I think that it's time for politicians to pay attention and to raise that issue. Right now, Congress isn't doing much of anything, but they do have a chance in September when they will have to pass spending bills. That is a time to take that as an opportunity to provide some certainty going forward by reducing spending and not spending up to the limit that was just agreed upon in the Bipartisan Budget Act.
Romina, some people supporting those tax cuts, even payroll tax cuts, are saying that this would actually help keep the U.S. economy from unnecessarily slowing down and give a helping hand when it comes to the negotiating leverage that the president would have against, say, China. Would this help?
No, I don't think a payroll tax cut would be helpful at this time. We have unemployment at below 4%. The reason you do a payroll tax cut or a payroll tax holiday is because you're trying to spur hiring. We don't need to spur hiring. If anything, we might need to be concerned about a labor shortage. The job market is really strong. Why would we address it in an area where the problem doesn't rest? It's like saying if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This is the wrong approach.
They're hammering away at it. But Romina Boccia, I apologize, I mispronounced your name in the intro, but thank you to Romina Boccia from the Heritage Foundation for breaking down all of that for us.